So here we are for part two of Burnout to Breakthrough. So for people that saw part one, our podcast was all about experience my burnout and sharing some of my story in relation to how I achieved my breakthrough and I'm doing something that I really love now. And today we are flipping the role, and I'm going to be asking Sarah some questions around motivation. So we're going to start with something really straightforward and asking Sarah, I'm really curious as to what you think motivation is and why it's so important.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jo. I've always been absolutely fascinated by why people do what they do. And what is it about their behaviour and their performance that really gives them the insight into why they do what they do. And motivation is invisible. You can't see it because it's energy. And the thing you have to remember is that behaviour and energy are all combined in. So you notice when someone is motivated. So what do you notice when they're motivated? They're upbeat, they're energized, they're proactive, they're engaged, they're productive, they're focused, they're wanting to take action. If you flip that and look at people who are feeling demotivated, what do you notice? You notice that their whole energy level just comes down. They're tired, lethargic. They really are quite restless, maybe bored. They don't see the point of what they're doing. And I think really energy to me is about why you do what you do, but why do you get up in the morning? What is it that's really driving you to take action and do something about it?
I think that you explained that really simply and really well, Sarah. Kind of, I can from my previous podcast, I can really relate to that for me personally. If we're connecting the motivation and burnout. So what do you think is the biggest impact when someone has burnout and they don't feel motivated? Perhaps not just about looking at work, but also for them personally.
Yeah, I think it's looking at their behaviours and realising that actually you can get some very productive, high-achieving individuals who really want to keep going because it's really important to them to do a good job, to make sure that there's no sign of weakness, that they don't want to put worry into people about there's anything wrong, and they keep it all inside. And part of this is that is really going to just be an internal bomb that's waiting to go off. And what you have to recognise is that if you are noticing this restlessness, this lack of interest, this disengagement, a disconnect in what's going on in your life, your working life or your personal life, then what's the context behind that? What is going on for you at that time that is really taking and zapping all that energy from you? And some of the clients that I've been working with, particularly around career change and career development, they are feeling really frustrated with their work, their job, how things have obviously been impacted through COVID. And they're just almost questioning their ability to do their work. They're questioning whether this is really where they want to carry on spending the rest of their time working. And it's putting all sorts of doubts and insecurities into the mix. But when you start talking to people about what energizes them, their strengths, their motivators, why they do what they do, we're really trying to reawaken what it is that excites them. And actually, if that's not happening right now because they have just got too much on their plate, they're managing childcare issues, they are working from home and it's not really their preferred space to be in, they might be at risk of losing their job. They may be going through a massive personal change of circumstance. They might be having relationship difficulties. All of these provide the context that we really need to pay attention to. We can't ignore it. We have to acknowledge that it exists. But it's trying to give some perspective to it and understand, that motivation is going to ebb and flow. It is going to change depending on the circumstances we face at that stage.
Yeah, I think you've raised some really interesting points there. And I want just to go back to high achievers.
Yeah.
What do you think that somebody who has been a high achiever, so if we take a chief exec of an organisation, for example, and they've hit that level of burnout, but actually what they don't recognise is that they've hit the level of burnout, but their motivation to do the job well the way that they've done it for many years has absolutely just hit rock bottom.
I think one example is if I share with you a particular tool that I use a lot with clients. It's called motivational maps. It's something that a chap called James Sale set up, and is a really useful tool to help people talk about motivation and understand it and have a language to talk about and describe it. And what motivational maps does is that it takes 9 different categories and themes, and it ranks them. So it looks at what motivates you at that given point in time and how motivated you are currently. And if we take the example of someone in a very senior type level position, and one of the themes is director, and director is all about leadership, being in charge, managing finances, controls, being, someone that really embraces that management role and making strategic decisions. And increasingly, I'm finding that many people who are in those senior level positions are finding that director is coming lower and lower down in their ranking of motivation. And what's an interesting point to note is that it doesn't mean that you are not a capable and successful manager or leader. It just means that it's not giving you the same energy and drive as other things are right now in your life.
Yeah.
So if I take an example of myself, my own motivational map, I've been working in leadership and management roles for over 15 years. But out of the 9 motivators, director is my lowest one.
Right.
And it's like, well, I can do this, and I have been doing this. But actually what it means is that I've enjoyed having the growth and the stretch that leadership gives me, but I don't have long-term aspirations to be the CEO or managing director of an organisation, mainly because those types of level of roles will take me away from some of the operational things that I enjoy doing more of. So the things that I'm more motivated by are about being innovative, creative, having freedom and flexibility to make my own choices, having some autonomy and independence, having meaning in what I'm doing. And I feel that I'm adding value and I make a difference to what people are involved in. So I can be that leader, and my part of my career has a place for that. But actually, it's a conversation you would have with a CEO about what is it that matters more to you right now. If your work is leading you to actual burnout and stress and fatigue and tiredness and things aren't fitting right, then what changes need to be put in place, either in your working life or your personal life, for you to have that resurgence of energy? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really clear because, as you know, I've also done the motivational map, and mine was pretty accurate as well. And even though my lowest was star, I think that was right, wasn't it? It was star, and that didn't surprise me because that was all about kind of, I don't mind not receiving feedback, but actually the way that you explained it to me really well was actually it's really important for me to help people feel good.
Yeah. And help people. Again, STAR is a motivational theme where people really value, if it's something that comes very high up for them in their ranking, they really lean into having recognition and praise. It's something that drives and motivates them. Doesn't necessarily mean they want constant pats on the back or they want to be constantly told that they're amazing. It's more about that if they feel that is missing, they're not getting the thank yous, they're not getting recognition for what they're doing. That is coming across as they don't have value in their worth and what they're offering. But it's lower for you because it's not that you don't value praise, but you enjoy seeing others have their star moment and have their shine and have the spotlight on their successes, and you want them to embrace that. And that gives meaning to what you do.
Yeah, absolutely, very much so. I think as we're both coaches, that's a very important part of our role, isn't it? Really. But I want to just touch on value, because I think value is something that seems to have really, really kind of become more apparent during COVID. And what I hear, because my field is mental health in the workplace, that a lot of people don't feel that value in the workplace any longer.
Yeah.
So when somebody isn't feeling valued or believes they're not valued, how, in your role as a career coach, could you help them with that increase of motivation again?
I think that's a really good question. And I think a lot of this piece around people understanding their strengths and motivators is about self-awareness and their own emotional intelligence, and really understanding what is it that makes them tick. Because if you don't understand what makes you tick, what gets you excited, what gets you enthused, what is it that really helps you feel that you're living a really good quality of life, that's really what we're looking for. If you don't feel that you understand what that looks like, how can you influence that and expect others to support you in that process? So I think having some self-awareness of what drives and motivates you is really key, and it doesn't all have to be related to work. Often it's associated with motivation in teams, performance, productivity, things like that. But actually, on a personal level, if we're not motivated to take action, which is really what it's about, motivation is energy, energy allows us to take action, then we're not going to make changes in our lives for us to be happier. So whether that's changes that we want to make about our health, our weight, our social life, our relationships, we have to understand what is it that we want that means that we're going to have a better quality of life. And if we're motivated to achieve it, if we're motivated to take action, then we will see the results.
Yeah.
But it's like things that I find it really hard to motivate myself to exercise regularly. Okay. Even though I know it's something I need to be doing, that will be good for me, and is all of these different things. But I won't do something if I don't feel I'm going to get a benefit from it.
Yeah.
I won't take action if I don't see the connection with it. So I'm going to be looking at what do I need to put in place to encourage myself to go out on more walks, to be more active, to include more energy and movement in my life. I'm going to do things that I enjoy doing rather than feeling that I should be doing them.
Yeah. I mean, I think removing the shoulds is really essential for people, isn't it? Because actually what we want to do is encourage people to identify for themselves the things that help them and make them feel good again.
Yeah, and I think one of the common questions I typically ask the clients that I work with who are really feeling quite flat and de-energized about why they're doing what they're doing at the minute, and they're looking for a bit of an injection of energy, is that I ask them, what would you say are the top 3-4 things that really excite you and really drive and motivate you? And often people have got a sense of it, but they don't know how to describe it. They don't know actually how to put the words and the descriptors in place for it. So things like the assessment tool of motivational maps is a really great way to put some descriptors around it, to put a language of different things. And then if you think about it from a career perspective, about how can you communicate what drives and motivates you in your job applications, at interview. One of the most common questions you'll be asked, and one of the most common questions that put the fear of dread in most interview candidates is, why do you want to do this job? Why?
Yeah.
And rather than, I need it because I haven't got a job at the minute, or it's local, or very practical reasons, which may all be completely true. Understanding why you want to do something is pivotal. It helps differentiate you from other candidates. It helps connect you with what is it about this role that gets you excited, that you want to engage with it, that you've put the time and effort to apply for it.
So from what you've said there, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Sarah, what I've picked up is our why, our purpose, are all linked to our motivation and how we're going to do something.
Absolutely.
So those 3 things are really key to any area of life, aren't they, really? Not just career, work, but actually our personal, our emotional, our physical health as well. So all of those three things are really linked to everything that we do as a human being, I guess.
Completely. And there's a really useful model that is called the performance triangle. So if you have a triangle, and at the top is all about what you do. So what is it that you do in terms of your job role, your day-to-day activities, the duties, all of the things about what you do comes at the top. In the other side of the triangle, you've got how. So how do you do what you do? So these are your skills and behaviors. These are the things that enable you to collaborate, be creative, be innovative, that you have got the sort of the character and the personality to make things happen. And on the other side of the triangle, you have why bother. So it's the why. So you've got what, how, and why. And interestingly, when you look at people's CVs, they're pretty much, rocking it on what they can do and how they do it, what skills and experiences they have. But it's not always clear for people about what is their why. Why do they do the work that they do? Why do they pursue the career paths that they do? Why do they say yes to, joining new clubs and activities or making certain decisions in their life? It's because of the why. And an interesting part with how people understand their strengths is about not just what you do, but and how you do it, but what you enjoy doing. So it's those sort of elements within that performance triangle that we really need to be paying attention to, rather than just what are we doing day in, day out, how are we doing it? And you could be really successful doing those two things, but actually, why are we doing what we're doing? And are we leaning into our strengths? Are we enjoying what we're doing? And that's the piece around our well-being. That's what makes us mentally and emotionally strong. That's what helps us stay engaged and productive, and excited about what life throws at us.
Yeah, I really like the way that you've explained that, because I think, finding our why is like finding the biggest piece of treasure in a jewellery box, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It opens so many more doors and opportunities for people. And I often think when people have had experience of burnout, or they just feel that career that they've been in for many years is really not hitting the spot anymore, for that opportunity to look at the why can actually take them to another level of, a level of finding something that they really love doing, that's new to them, and that brings their energy back. And it might be something that they've wanted to do for such a long time, but because they've had a lifestyle, because they've been in this great career and they've got all that self-esteem from the job that they've done, they've actually neglected their real purpose.
Completely. And I think as well is that sometimes these words can become cliches. They can be, finding your passion, your purpose, what you get excited or energized by, because it's like this elusive jewel that we're trying to find. And everybody is different. Everybody is motivated by different things at different points in their life.
Yeah.
But if you are feeling a bit checked out with this, you're not really sure how to actually understand what it is that you're wanting for at the moment, or you're not sure how to communicate it, whether that's to people that you love or to people that you want to work with, then having something like the motivational map tool is one way of doing that. But it's also just to increase your own self-awareness and spend some time reflecting and thinking about what needs for you to feel happier and more fulfilled in your life.
And where can people contact you, Sarah, to get in touch with you for the motivational map? Because it sounds like, I think right now many people might be really interested in that, even if they're not at the stage of burnout, but they know that they're perhaps looking at a career change, want to do something different, but actually finding out what that might look like for them. This tool could really help somebody in that move in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely, Jo. And on my website, sarah-robinson.co.uk, I have a whole section on motivational maps, what it involves, examples of what the report looks like. So it just gives them a taste and a flavour of it. And I think one of the things to mention, which we've talked about before, is that you can complete all of these different tools and reports, and sometimes you hope that they're going to give you that elusive answer. It's going to give you the nugget and the missing piece that you've been looking for. But actually, it's the conversation starter. You need to see that these are tools that help you have a conversation to unpick this and what it means for you in the context that you're in. So I don't offer sort of motivational maps just as a report and a downloadable resource, because it's not the whole experience. So it's really an opportunity for you to have a coaching conversation to help you understand your why and where that fits into your life at the moment.
That sounds great. And I think, the whole thing about building up a toolkit for yourself is going to really help people with their resilience. It's going to help them identify when perhaps things aren't really going very well in their life, but actually they can reflect back and look at all these tools that can really provide them with some answers where they need to take action in their life.
Brilliant.
Great. Thank you very much, Sarah. Have you got just 2 or 3 top tips for motivation before we leave?
I would say that it's about understanding what you get excited about, what energizes you, because energy makes you take action. Energy gives you the fuel. And one of the things that is a really good analogy that has stuck with me is that you could have an amazing car. It looks brilliant, top end of the range. But if there's no fuel in that car, you're not going anywhere.
That's very true.
And I think that description of motivation and energy is really the thing. And if you're burnt out, your fuel tank's running empty. So I think one of the things to really understand is trying to tune in to what does energize you, what encourages you to take action and to make the changes that you want to make.
Great. Thank you very much, Sarah. It's been a
Thanks,
pleasure. I look forward to part 3.
Brilliant. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye.